Hello, this is Jack Jackson. We're going to talk in this video about the great mathematician Leonhard Euler. You can see a painting of him there. Now, in the last video, we talked about the amazing Bernoulli family, and of all the things that they did on their own, one of the most significant was their relationship with Euler, who is definitely rated among the greatest mathematicians of all time. Even some might say the best, some in the top two or three or four or five. He is definitely one of the greatest of all time, and he is definitely a student and colleague of the Bernoulli family. He was born April 15th, 1707 in Basel, Switzerland, died September 18th, 1783 in St. Petersburg, Russia. So he lived entirely in the 18th century. He is undoubtedly one of the greatest mathematicians of all times. He made enormous contributions to many fields of mathematics. He has more significant mathematical publications than anyone. His father, Paul, had studied theology at the University of Basel and attended uh, Jacob Bernoulli's lectures there. And he and Johann Bernoulli actually lived in Jacob Bernoulli's house while they were undergraduates. So he knew a little bit of mathematics, and he was provided the early education for his son Leonhard. And Leonhard was born in Basel but was raised in nearby Rhine. Uh, so he was raised in Switzerland there. Um, Leonhard entered the University of Basel at age 14, and he was studying to prepare for ministry, but of course he had a lot of interest in mathematics. And he actually sought out the great Johann Bernoulli, who was teaching there, and wanted to be taught by him. And Bernoulli eventually recognized Euler's talents. The method he used was kind of interesting. Apparently, Johann was fairly busy, so what he did is he gave texts uh, to Euler and told him to study them on his own. And he said, "Okay, on Sunday afternoons, come by and let's discuss any questions that you have." So once a week, he met with uh, Bernoulli, but most of the rest he studied on his own as directed by Bernoulli. So he was a student of Johann Bernoulli. He finished his master's in philosophy in 1723, comparing the philosophy of Descartes and Newton. And he took a position vacated by Nicholas Bernoulli too in St. Petersburg. And if you remember from my last video, Nicholas Bernoulli and his brother Daniel went to St. Petersburg getting positions there, and Nicholas died within a year. Well, um, Daniel was very sad that his brother died. He missed him. He was homesick, did not like the climate in St. Petersburg, and was thinking about leaving, but his father, Johann, said, "Let me send you my best student, which is Euler." And Euler moved there, and the best work that Daniel Bernoulli did was his collaboration with Euler during that time. So he took a position at the St. Petersburg Academy of Sciences. It was founded by Catherine I, who was the wife of Peter the Great, and it had only been founded 2 years earlier. And Catherine was very much concerned with trying to bring um, the best academic traditions of Europe into Russia. And with this foundation here at the Academy of Science at St. Petersburg, a really strong tradition of Russian mathematics was started, particularly by Bernoulli's and especially Euler. And it's a strong tradition that continues to this day. So he worked there in St. Petersburg, a lot of it with Daniel Bernoulli. Even after Daniel left St. Petersburg, Euler stayed there for quite a while. He met someone there who he married, Katharina Gzell, but she was a daughter of a painter there, and but she was of Swiss origin. So Euler was Swiss. He married a Swiss woman. They ended up having 13 children, but unfortunately only 5 survived past infancy. And Euler said that he made many of his mathematical discoveries were made by holding a baby with children playing around his feet. He was able to I guess, multitask and think at the highest level with all of that going on, which is pretty remarkable. 1735, he had a severe fever and almost died, but he survived that. In 1738, he started having very severe eye problems. In 1740, he had lost one eye and was having problems with the other. Eventually, he went completely blind. Uh, Probably was cataracts in the second eye. They did do some cataract surgery, and he briefly got some sight back, but then he lost it. And many of his papers were written after going blind. I think he had like 17 years or so that he lived after going completely blind, and he continued to do amazing work during those 17 years as well. And he had learned a method for dealing with mathematics while he was blind. After being in St. Petersburg for quite a while, he went to the Berlin Academy there, and he was there actually for 25 years, but he continued to work sort of part-time and receive a stipend from the St. Petersburg Academy, and he would send papers to the St. Petersburg Academy to be published there, and he sent them, you know, uh, got them other mathematical works and things. Um, so he had some affiliation with St. Petersburg during that time, but of course, mainly he was working for Berlin. At Berlin, he did an amazing amount of things. He oversaw supervised the observatory and botanical gardens. He selected personnel, oversaw finances. He managed publication of calendars and geographical maps, completed practical engineering projects. So he had a huge administrative role, and he did much more in addition to continuing to publish mathematical research. During the 25 years he was there, he wrote something like 380 articles. Just amazing output. That's an amazing output alone for a lifetime of any mathematician, and he considered the quality of the articles, and that was only a part of his academic output. In 1766, he returned to St. Petersburg, uh, and then in 1771, a fire destroyed his house. He was only able to save himself and his mathematical papers. In 1783, he ended up dying in St. Petersburg, but they continued to publish his work for another 50 years after his death. This guy was absolutely amazing. And among many things that he did, he is the single individual that's most responsible for making mathematics look like it does today. Many of the mathematical notations that we use today, either he created or at least he popularized. Our modern idea of what a function is due to Euler. Our notation, f of x, Euler. E to the x, using e as the base of a natural logarithm or of an exponential function. That is uh, due to him. I for the square root of -1, pi for the ratio of a circumference and its diameter, sigma, capital sigma for summations, delta x, and many, many more notations are due to Euler. So if you looked at Euler's writings, you would recognize them today. He did more to make mathematics look like it does in our modern textbooks and so forth than anyone else. He did work in almost every area of mathematics. He did number theory. He proved some of Fermat's conjectures. He did something called the Basel problem in infinite series, summing the infinite series 1 over n square, and that was finding out exactly what that was. And the three most famous Bernoullis worked on that, and they couldn't solve that problem. So he was able to out surpass his teachers and their family members in the Bernoullis. He worked with primes. He worked with the zeta function, several things with infinite series. He proved the Fermat's last theorem for the case n equals 3. He worked in real analysis. He basically founded the area of complex analysis and calculus of finite differences. He worked in calculus of variations, differential equations. He did more to he's probably responsible for most of what you see in an undergraduate differential equations textbook. A big chunk of that and the notations are used and the techniques that are used, much of that is due to Euler. He did work in differential geometry, many areas of science, including hydrostatics, fluid mechanics, astronomy, cartography, and many more. That's just a small sample of the many things that he did. He was truly a master of most of the mathematics and science that was known in his time. He has published many more papers than just about anybody. 886 published papers to credit, over 800 pages per year. I don't think anyone or almost no one has passed that publication output even today. And especially when you consider the high quality and the influence that these pages had, not only just how many papers, but what high quality they were and what influence they had on the history of mathematics. He really stands head and shoulders above just about everybody else in that respect. So this places him definitely among the top few mathematicians of all times. And there are many things that are named after him as well. And so there we have Leonhard Euler, one of the greatest mathematicians of all times, sort of a giant throughout the entire realm, especially during the middle and late 18th century. Uh, just an amazing mathematician.